Today I'm going to be reviewing the Derwent Graphitint and doing a demonstration using this medium on this hawk. Hi, I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. I finally got a chance to try out the Graphitint line. I've had these for a couple of months. Derwent actually sent these to me. And before I get too far, I just want to let you know I am not being paid to review these. The opinions in this video are completely my own. So if you're not familiar with these are water-soluble graphite. They just have a slight tint. They don't have a ton of colors available. It's a line of 24. They're very muted colors, but very pretty. I think they're pretty. Now the things that I liked a lot about this, my first thoughts on this is that it just laid down on the paper so quickly. For this project, I am using Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press 140-pound watercolor paper. With these pencils, they're very much like ink tints. You can use them dry or you can use them wet. I use the pencil to sketch whatever area I wanted on the paper, and I could be very, very lazy. With colored pencil, you guys hear me say all the time, work in small circles, keep it nice and smooth. With this, you do not have to. The way that it works with the paper and the water, you can sketch in any direction you want, and once you add the water, it all smooths out. So you can be very, very quick with it, and that was the best part for me, because we all know how long it takes to finish something in colored pencil. This, it doesn't. It's very fast. You can have a complete project very, very quickly. The negative with this is that they do not have a history of being very light fast. So it is not a medium I would do on a project that I wanted to sell the original of. I can make prints of it, no problem. So if that's all you're concerned with, this medium is fine. But I would not recommend selling or displaying in a gallery or anything like that, this medium, because it is going to fade and fairly quickly from what I've read. I've read several reviews where people said that they had worked within a sketchbook that was never exposed to light after it was finished and they faded like crazy. So that is something to keep in mind. For myself, what I will be using these for, I think I'm going to get myself a watercolor sketch pad, and I'm just going to use it to do quick sketches where I'm not spending 20 hours on a single project. Again, because they lay down so quickly, they'll be great for concept work, they'll be great for just quick practice, life sketches, and that sort of thing. I think they're going to be an amazing medium to work in with that, just not for selling the original. So that is something that you want to keep in mind. You can get a set of these, the full set, like this one, the 24 set in the tin, runs about $40. So they're not terribly expensive to try. You can even get the lower sets, but I would recommend getting the set of 24 because the colors really are so pretty and so fun to work with. Let's go ahead and move on to my project where I can give you some tips and tricks and things that I learned along the way using this for the first time. If you are supporters over on Patreon, the 1-hour version of this video, complete with voiceover, is available for you guys now, so make sure to head over and check that out. For this piece, I am working on Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press 140-pound watercolor paper. And I don't think that I'll use this paper for this medium again for two reasons. One, it just lays down so fast. I don't think it needs a super expensive paper. Any watercolor paper should work. The other reason is, given that it's not very light fast and that I plan to do quicker sketches, I really don't want to use my more expensive paper for that. But because of how this lays down, I don't think that it needs it. I think any smooth watercolor paper is going to work just fine. You can see as I'm sketching this in here, I'm kind of being pretty messy. I've got my direction of the pencil is going in every direction, exactly what I tell you not to do with colored pencil. You can do with this. You can be so messy with it. So I've sketched that in, and one thing that I did find is that it is not permanent. Once your first layer is dry, when you add work on top, if you're just adding pigment on top, it'll stick. But if you take a clean brush with just water, you can lift quite a bit of this pigment off the paper. So if you do have an area that you messed up, or you just want to lighten an area up, it is pretty forgiving like that. Two things to notice here. Look how gray that is. It looks like all I was using was gray. It was actually greens and this navy blue, this dark, dark blue, mixed with gray. The other thing is my pencil lines were going in every direction, but once I added water, it smoothed them all out. So it didn't matter that you could see all of those pencil strokes. So you get to be very lazy and very fast with this. I'm just adding water to blend that out. And once it's dry, if an area is not blended all the way, I can just add more water and keep working it until it is blended. So moving on to the wings, even though I'm not adding as much detail as I normally would on colored pencil, I still need to make sure that all of those little lines are going in the right direction and that my feathers are in the right place. I've got various tones of this reddish brown mixed in with grays, mostly warm grays here. This set really does have a lot of grays, which is nice for doing wildlife or natural stuff. You can see that the blacks get really dark once you add water. Now, one of the things that I did start doing, because it is really hard to get finer detail, I found with the pencils themselves. The pencils are a little bit blunt, or they blunt very quickly as soon as you add any pressure to the paper. So, and they have a tendency to break, so you don't want to add too much pressure anyway. But because I couldn't get them too sharp, what I was doing is scribbling color onto a scratch piece of paper and then taking a brush that has water and lifting that pigment off the scratch paper and then using it to paint directly onto this. Now, you can also get graters. Derwent sells a grater of sorts that you can grate the pigment or the pencil into and then use that pigment, make your own little washes and paint mixtures basically. I don't have one of those, so I just scribbled onto a scratch piece of paper. Now with this, you really, really want to make sure not to overblend, because if you overblend it, the previous layers can start to lift off. So when you add water and you're layering like I'm doing here, you're still able to layer. You just want to make sure that when you are layering that you just add water quickly and move on to the next area. Don't keep reworking the same area with that water again and again, or you will just create mud. Very, very much like watercolor in this. So you can see I'm sketching out loosely where the main feathers on the body go, blending that out. And I'm drying it with a hairdryer. You can see that I have not stretched this paper, so it starts to warp when the water is added, but because I've got it taped all the way along the edges, once I take the hairdryer to it, it dries flat back into shape. Using that paintbrush, having lifted the pigment off a separate piece of paper, you can see I'm able to get a lot of little tiny detail. So you're not really limited as to how much detail you can get with this. I chose not to go too crazy with it, knowing that it's likely to fade. And the Inktense are as well. This one, I just read a lot of reports where it faded within people's sketchbooks, not exposed to light, so it concerns me that using UV sprays or putting it behind UV glass may not make a difference for this one. And I'm going to do my own testing to see how that holds up. But that's why I chose not to do too much detail, but if you wanted to, you absolutely can with using the paintbrush like that. So shading in the tail, and I'm just paying close attention to my reference photo. This reference photo comes from wildlifereferencephotos.com if you want to get your own to draw. Now onto this wing. Normally I will work one feather at a time, but by this point in the piece I figured out that I could skip around and do large sections at a time, and it really wasn't going to affect the end result. So you can see I've sketched in everything on that wing before I blended it all out with water. And then I'm going to let that dry. Now you do want to let the paper dry all the way before you rework the area. You can damage the paper. The graphite pencils actually don't stick well to it when it's wet anyway. So I've got the majority of the feathers inside the wing sketched out. Now I can come back through and start working on my values. Darkening things up. And even though it's not permanent, you're still able to layer quite a bit as long as you don't overdo blending with the water. You can see those dark feathers are really dark, which I loved. I've added a bit of purple into these feathers as well. That purple just gave it a really pretty tone. And I'm not copying each one of my feathers exactly. As long as they're going in the right direction, it is fine. It's close enough in this case. Now, another thing that I found you could do with this is actually erase. Once it was dry, you're able to erase quite a bit of this pigment back off the paper. I did not do that in this project, but I did test it later on, and while it doesn't get the paper back to completely white, you can lift some of it off and lighten it up that way. But the easier way, if you do need to lift some of the pigment off the paper, I found was just to take a clean brush with water and lift the pigment that way. Just kind of rework whichever area you need to lighten up. You just want to be really careful so that you don't over smudge it. The white pencil in this is really opaque. I liked that for highlights as well. I didn't like it with water added, but just left dry on top of my darker areas. It shows up so nice. Just some final details here. Mostly I am just lifting color off the paper with a clean paintbrush. And that is pretty much it for this guy. If you guys have any questions or if you want to share your experiences with this medium, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Again, if you are supporters over on Patreon, the 1-hour version of this video, complete with voiceover, is available for you guys now, so make sure to head over and check that out. If you are new to my channel, I have new video critiques every Tuesday where I'm critiquing your original paintings or drawings, my own speed paintings, drawings, and tutorials every Wednesday. Thursdays, I have art Q&As and sometimes social media tips for artists, and artist vlogs every weekend. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything, and you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. All of those social media sites are linked below in the video description where you can keep up with news, my newest work, and see real-time clips of whatever it is I'm currently working on. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Derwent Graphitint. Graphite tint. Today I'm doing Okay, I've got to know how many of you guys bought these and then wanted to draw a seahorse because of what's on the cover, because that's pretty much what happened to me. Not yet drawn a seahorse with these, but I want to. My own speed paintings, drawings, and nope, let's start that over.